Hey TV maniacs, everyone's busy watching The Boys, Reacher, Fallout and Invincible and completely sleeping on 15 Prime Video series that are frankly just as good. Today we fix that. Let's start with one of the smoothest spy thrillers Prime has in its library, The Night Manager. The setup is pure John le Carre. Jonathan Pine is a former soldier working as a night manager at a luxury hotel when he gets pulled into the world of Richard Roper, a charming billionaire arms dealer who hides monstrous things behind expensive suits and perfect manners. Tom Hiddleston plays Pine with that controlled intensity where you're never fully sure how much fear he's letting show. Hugh Laurie is excellent as Roper because he doesn't play him like a cartoon villain, he plays him like a man who has spent years making evil look polite. What makes the show work is the tension of infiltration. Pine has to get close enough to Roper to expose him, but every step deeper means becoming more useful to the very people he's trying to destroy. It's the kind of show where you spend 6 episodes holding your breath, waiting for the moment someone finally sees through him. If you've somehow never seen this, fix that immediately. Goliath is a legal drama, but not the polished glass office kind. Billy Bob Thornton plays Billy McBride, a once great lawyer whose life has fallen apart. He is drinking too much, living rough, and taking the kind of cases that make him look like a shadow of the person he used to be. Then he gets pulled into a wrongful death case that puts him up against the powerful law firm he helped build. That's the core appeal. This is a fallen man going after a machine that knows exactly how to crush people. Billy is not some clean heroic figure, he is messy, self-destructive, funny, sharp and often his own worst enemy. But when he locks onto a case, you can still see why people used to fear him. The first season especially has that David vs Goliath energy baked right into the title. This is for people who like legal thrillers with damaged protagonists, corporate rot and courtroom drama that actually has some dirt underneath its fingernails. Steel is one of the newer entries on the list and the hook is simple. An ordinary office worker gets trapped inside a violent heist at a financial company. Sophie Turner plays Zara, who works at Lockmill Capital, a pension management firm. One day, armed robbers storm the building and force Zara and her colleague Luke into the middle of their plan. From there, the show becomes less about a clean robbery and more about who knew what, who's being used, and whether Zara is really just a victim caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's the part that makes it interesting. The heist is the engine, but the suspicion is the hook. As the pressure builds, the office becomes a locked box full of fear, money, and people making very quick decisions with very bad consequences. 6 episodes, the ending is a gut punch, don't look it up beforehand. 13 opens like a rescue story, then slowly becomes something much more unsettling, because Jodie Comer's Ivy Moxham is not straightforward victim everyone assumes she is. She is a woman who escapes from captivity after being kidnapped 13 years earlier. She comes back to her family as an adult, but everyone around her is still trying to understand the girl who disappeared. Her parents, her sister, the police, her old friends, they all want answers, but Ivy herself is not easy to read. She is traumatized, confused, and desperate to reclaim a life that no longer exists. But as the investigation continues, some details don't fully add up, and the police start wondering how much of the truth she's actually telling them. Jodie Comer is excellent here, especially in the way she makes Ivy feel both fragile and unknowable. 5 episodes, watch it in one sitting. Sneaky Pete is exactly the kind of show that should have been much bigger. It follows Marius, a con man who gets out of prison and immediately realizes his old life is still waiting to crush him. So he does what any terrible decision maker with excellent survival instincts would do. He steals the identity of his former cellmate Pete and shows up at Pete's family home pretending to be their long-lost relative. The fun is that Marius thinks he's escaping into a safer life, but Pete's family has their own mess: bail bonds, money problems, old grudges, secrets everywhere. He's a liar walking into a house full of people who are not nearly as simple as he expects. Giovanni Ribisi is great in the lead, and Bryan Cranston adds real menace early on as the gangster Marius is trying to avoid. This is a great pick if you like crime shows built around cons, double lives, and characters constantly improvising their way out of bad situations. And we're not even close to done, because the next show is set in the Arctic, has one of the most genuinely unsettling atmospheres on this entire list, and somehow almost nobody has seen it. Fortitude starts with a brilliant setting, a tiny Arctic town that is supposed to be one of the safest places on Earth. Then a murder happens. That alone would be enough for a good mystery, but the show gets stranger because Fortitude itself feels unnatural. It's remote, freezing, and isolated in a way that makes every character seem trapped. The town has scientists, police, local politics, secrets, and people who came there to disappear from something. Once violence enters that space, the whole place starts to feel infected by suspicion. The first season is the strongest, especially because it balances murder mystery with something more eerie and almost uncanny. Stanley Tucci appears as an investigator brought in from outside, and Richard Dormer gives the local sheriff a rough, unpredictable edge. Think Broadchurch, but colder, stranger, and considerably more paranoid. Why is nobody talking about this one? Those Who Kill is built around one of the most unsettling ideas in crime fiction, that someone has been operating in plain sight for years and nobody noticed. The story begins with the disappearance of a teenage girl, a case that has gone cold enough for the police to start losing hope. But one detective refuses to let it die. When he finds a possible connection to another missing girl from years earlier, the investigation starts pointing towards something much worse than a single abduction. That brings in criminal profiler Louise Bergstein, and the show becomes a hunt for a killer whose patterns are only beginning to emerge. It's not flashy, it doesn't try to be cool, the dread just builds episode by episode until it's sitting right on top of you. Fair warning, this one gets under your skin in a way most Scandinavian crime shows don't. The Outlaws has one of those premises that sounds almost too small at first. A group of strangers doing community service together in Bristol. But that's the trick, these people are not friends or a team. They're just a messy collection of offenders, screw-ups, snobs, activists, fraudsters, and people who made one bad decision too many. Then they find something they absolutely should not find, and suddenly their punishment becomes the least of their problems. Stephen Merchant co-created it and stars in it, so the comedy is awkward, dry, and very British. But the show is not just a sitcom with crime sprinkled on top. There's real danger underneath it, especially once the group gets tangled with people who are much more serious than they are. Christopher Walken is the big name here, and he fits strangely well into the chaos. This is for anyone who likes crime stories with flawed people, sharp comedy, and that very satisfying feeling of watching strangers slowly become a dysfunctional little unit. The Underground Railroad is not casual viewing, but it is one of Prime Video's most powerful series. Barry Jenkins adapts Colson Whitehead's novel by imagining the Underground Railroad as an actual physical rail system beneath America. The story follows Cora, an enslaved woman who escapes from a Georgia plantation and moves through different states, each one revealing another version of America's violence, hypocrisy, and cruelty. Thusom Bedu is extraordinary as Cora. She gives the show its emotional center without turning the character into a simple symbol. Cora is frightened, angry, observant, exhausted, and determined to keep moving even when every step forward costs her something. This is beautifully made, but it's also heavy. It's not a background show, it asks for your attention and your patience, and it earns both. But it is extraordinary, and it changes your frame of reference for what television can do. The Curse is a British crime comedy about small-time crooks stumbling into a job that is far too big for them. Set in early 1980s London, it follows a group of friends who get caught up in a massive gold heist. In another show, that might mean slick planning, cool criminals, and tense professionalism. Here, it means panic, ego, terrible judgment, and people pretending they're in control when they very clearly are not. Alan Mustafa plays Albert, one of the central figures in the mess, surrounded by a group who all seem convinced they're smarter than they are. That's where the comedy comes from. The crime is serious, but the people handling it are chaotic, impulsive, and constantly making things worse. It has that very British mix of crime, stupidity, and escalating consequences. This is for people who like British crime comedies, idiot criminals, and stories where one bad decision turns into a much bigger disaster. We now have 5 shows left, and this next one is genuinely unlike anything else on this list. It starts as comedy, then gets under your skin in ways you won't see coming. Bait is a very different kind of prime hidden gem, shorter, sharper, and built around fame rather than murder. Riz Ahmed created and stars in it as Shah Latif, a struggling British Pakistani actor who suddenly finds himself in the running to play James Bond. That premise sounds funny, and it is, but the show is also clearly interested in what happens when a dream role turns into a cultural argument. Shah isn't just auditioning for a part, he becomes a symbol other people can project onto. Progress, backlash, representation, outrage, opportunity. And while everyone else argues over what his casting would mean, he still has to deal with his own insecurity, family dynamics, and the basic humiliation of trying to make it as an actor. The episodes are short, which should make it a very easy binge. Riz Ahmed created this, wrote it, and stars in it, and it might be the most original thing on Prime Video right now. Seriously, why is nobody talking about this? Red Queen is a Spanish thriller with a very easy hook. One brilliant but deeply damaged woman, one disgraced detective, and a case that quickly gets nastier than either of them expects. At the center is Antonia Scott, who's basically the most intelligent person in the world. But the show doesn't present that as some effortless superpower. She's isolated, wounded, and carrying the kind of personal damage that makes her gift feel more like a burden. What I really like is how the series shows the way her mind works. When Antonia starts connecting clues, patterns, spaces, and tiny details, the show gives it that cinematic visual language, almost like you're stepping inside the machinery of her thinking rather than just being told she's clever. Then there's young Gutierrez, the detective brought in to pull her back into the field. He's more grounded and instinctive, and their odd couple dynamic gives the mystery some real energy. Watch this if you like international crime thrillers, unusual detective duos, and investigations where the lead character's mind is part of the spectacle. Swarm is not a comfortable watch, but that's exactly the point. It follows Dre, a young woman whose obsession with a global pop star becomes the center of her entire identity. She isn't just a fan, she lives inside the fandom. It shapes how she sees herself, how she sees other people, and eventually how she justifies the things she does. Dominic Fishback is the reason this show works as well as it does. Dre can be awkward, lonely, funny, frightening, and strangely vulnerable, sometimes within the same scene. The show never lets you settle into a simple reading of her, which makes the whole thing much more unsettling. What starts as satire about stan culture gradually becomes something closer to a psychological horror story about loneliness, online identity, and the need to belong to something bigger than yourself. This one is for people who liked Atlanta, dark comedy, and promise. Ballard is a solid pick for anyone who misses the kind of detective show that actually cares about the work. It follows Renee Ballard, a detective put in charge of the LAPD's new cold case unit. And this is not some glossy, high-powered task force. It's underfunded, overlooked, and built around cases most people have already stopped caring about. That gives the show its emotional engine. Ballard is not chasing headlines. She's digging into forgotten lives, old evidence, and crimes that still matter because someone was left without answers. Maggie Q gives the character a mix of toughness and restraint, and if you know the Bosch universe, this very much sits in that same world of patient, grounded detective storytelling. The cases start cold, but the deeper Ballard gets, the more the show opens up into corruption, buried patterns, and danger inside the system itself. If you only pick one from this list you've never heard of, make it this one, then come back and work through the rest. So those are some of the best hidden gem shows you can find on Prime Video, or at least the ones that deserve a lot more attention than they seem to get. Some are quick weekend binges, some are darker, heavier watches. Some are strange, uncomfortable, or a little messy in ways that make them more interesting, but all of them have something that makes them worth your time. Now I want to hear from you. Which Prime Video series do you think more people should be watching? Drop your hidden gems in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share it with a fellow TV addict, and subscribe for more smart weekly recommendations. Thanks for watching, happy binging, see you in the next one, and remember, sleep is optional when there's one more episode.